Hi, everyone. It looks like people have found the chat window as well. So please feel free to say hi to your colleagues and ask any questions in the chat as we're going through today's presentation. Feel free to put in the chat window, or you can also ask in the Q&A option as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mickey. I was definitely going to mention that. Just want to say welcome, chime in and say welcome to our Head Start community. I see that we have people from all over, so I'm really excited for the webinar today as we launch our Starling Minds program. Okay, so Deborah is going to be introducing our speaker today. We are so
Hi, everyone.
excited.
Thanks, Keisha. Thanks, Keisha. I think it just skipped for a second there. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and we truly appreciate the time you've given us to join us today. We're really excited. Welcome to the orientation on Starling Minds Mental Fitness. This is a new resource provided by the National Head Start Association to all NHSA members and their family, beginning today. Our founder and chief science officer, Dr. Andrew Mickey, he'll speak today on how the Starling Minds Mental Fitness program can help you. We'll provide a brief demonstration, and following his presentation, we'll let you know how you can register for the program. And as Keisha mentioned, feel free to enter any questions as we go in the Q&A tab of this, but shout out and say hello in the chat as well. We know we also have some prospective NHSM members joining today, so we'll discuss as well at the end how you can access a trial of the mental fitness program. We're proud to be partnering with NHSA and providing support to people and programs that do such important work in early childhood education. NHSA partnered with Starling Minds to provide you and your families with a comprehensive mental health support and bring a positive cultural shift in the mental health of the entire organization and members. The learnings and insights provided in our mental fitness program can help create a common language and open dialogue in the mental health across your teams and programs. Starling Minds Mental Fitness is a confidential, self-guided program that includes live sessions, challenges, and workshops for improving mental fitness by delivering personalized training that helps identify and manage thoughts and feelings of stress, anxiety, and depression. The program can be used on a phone, tablet, or computer. You just open up the link from there and bookmark it, and then it works just like an app. It's an effective scientific mental fitness program based in cognitive behavioral therapy, not to be confused with any kind of wellness or meditation app, although those can be very helpful. The mental fitness program is a comprehensive program that empowers you to take a deep dive into your thoughts and feelings and make impactful changes in your life. In today's presentation, there are polls for you to participate in during Dr. Mickey's presentation, and we invite you to introduce yourself, as I mentioned in the chat, and we'll share links and resources there as well as we go. Dr. Mickey's goal in creating the mental fitness program was to make mental health support accessible for everyone and break down the complicated concepts of cognitive behavioral therapy in easily digestible format with videos and live sessions, bite-sized learnings, to make it simple to understand and integrate into your life. And I'm proud to introduce our founder and chief science officer, Dr. Andrew Mickey.
Thanks, Deb. Just before I started, Keisha, is Dr. Bergeron on now? Did she want to say anything before I get going?
Yeah, sure. That would be great. Dr. B is on now.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, so I had so much trouble logging in and now my camera won't start. I'm really here, guys, I swear. But I'm going to just go for it here. I want you all to get as much out of this hour as possible. I want to thank Keisha for her incredible work in keeping the train running on this, and for Starling in their partnership here. I'm very excited that NHSA is able to do this level of outreach on a topic that we hear from you in the field is top of your mind, and that is the exhaustion, the anxiety, the trauma that all of you have endured over the past couple of years as you continue to do this very important work. And I invite you to sit back. And I really want to say something. I did a webinar last week with the wonderful director from Utah. And she said at the beginning, she invited everybody to give themselves the hour. So I'm going to tell you that. Put your phone down, close all your other tabs, and let yourself learn and grow from what you're about to hear. I think this information will be new to you. I think it will be very interesting, and I think it'll resonate with you. And I really hope that you'll find something here that connects with you, and then you'll be able to do this take advantage of this resource that we're providing to you and your staff. And certainly NHSA is here for you throughout the process if you ever need anything. And without further delay, I'm going to turn it back over to Starling so they can get started.
Thank you very much. All right, welcome everybody. We're really excited to have our official launch with all of you today. So as Keisha and Deb mentioned, my name is Andrew. I am a registered psychologist in Vancouver, Canada, and I started my private practice. And I guess my career arc was one where I always I think with similar to a lot of you who maybe envision going into education early on, I always wanted to be a psychologist. That was one of my goals, and I got to that point and I started a private practice, and I was really fortunate where my referral streams really kind of pointed me into the direction of educators. So the vast majority of people that I saw, a lot of my patients early on and continue now, I'd say about 80% of my practice are educators of various kinds, anything from EAs to teachers to administrators, to staff of schools. And so I started there, and then I started doing some group programs because I got a lot of people who are on disability, and I do a certain type of treatment called cognitive behavior therapy. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and why it works so well for educators, people in education, because it's based so much on education. It's based on learning. It's based on training. It's based on experience in order to get better at a skill. And the skill being mental health. And in our case, we like to call it mental fitness. And so I did that for groups for a few years. And then a few organizations in Canada really loved the direction, and they wanted a digital program. And so then that's where Starling Minds really was born. And we really focus on providing, as comprehensive a digital program as we can, for specifically for people in education. So I'm going to explain to you, what it is, what it looks like, how it can potentially help you and your colleagues and your family members. We're really excited to really try to change the culture within NHSA to really make mental health more accessible, because a lot of times I think there's so much stigma around mental health. As soon as people talk about mental health, they think about mental illness, and then they start thinking about One Flew Over a Cuckoo's Nest or a lot of other movies in the media, and how mental illness is generally portrayed. And while that could be a subset of people with mental illness, it by far does not capture what most people experience, most of us in our day-to-day lives. And so that's what I really want to try to do with all of you today, is really try to give you guys an understanding of the science of psychology, how it fits into you, like your life, what it means to you personally, and why we shouldn't be so afraid of it. How if we understand it a little bit more, it really helps to normalize it. It really helps to demystify it, and then we can actually do a lot of things around it. So we're really excited to work with all of you in NHSA. Notice a lot of people are saying, hello in the chat. I love seeing that. So many people from all over the states, from Alaska all the way through throughout from west to east and north to south. So we're really excited. And so we met Dr. Bergeron in November of last year, and we talked to her and Yasmina about a lot of the issues that I think a lot of you were bringing forward, a lot of the challenges that Dr. Bergeron was talking about in terms of anxiety and burnout, trauma. It's been a pretty tough couple of years with the pandemic and just a lot of societal changes. And so what we did in January is we launched an internal pilot, and I'll show you some of the results of that a little bit later on. But then that really kind of launched us into the discussion of, okay, well, could we do this for everybody in NHSA? And so we did a pre-launch with directors and managers, partly because part of our goal is to really try to change the culture so that mental health is much more accepted and understood by everybody at NHSA. So we did a pre-launch in June. That was really successful. I'll show you even some of the comments that some of your NHSA colleagues have talked about in our program, and then that brings us to today, right, which is the official launch. So the first thing that we're going to do is do a poll with all of you, and I want to make this as interactive as possible. And so, because we've got about 400 people online right now, I want to personalize this with all of you as much as possible. And one of the ways that we can do this is by asking you some poll questions. And so I'm asking you 3 questions, and when you answer these questions, I generally want you to think about how these questions pertain to you in your life, not just maybe more recently, but just overall over the course of your life. And what I want to do with this information is I want to give you guys an idea in terms of how these questions can give you a general idea in terms of certain aspects of your own personalities. All of you have your own personality. I find it very interesting working with different organizations, because we find that overall organizations often have their own personalities as well, especially when you kind of aggregate all of the information. And the personality theory that this comes from is this area in psychology called the 5-factor model. It's one of the most scientifically researched personality theories, and it's one of my favorites just because it just makes a lot of sense. It basically shows that there's 5 major areas of personality, and I'm going to go through all 5 of these areas. But the questions that I'm asking all of you to respond to right now in the poll question is going to address 3 of them. Now, as a caveat to what I'm doing this, I just want to warn you that usually when we give personality tests, we usually give people about 300 to 500 different questions. And so that's a really comprehensive personality test. For the purposes of today, I'm only going to ask you 1 question from each of the 5 different areas. So I'm only asking you 3 questions. So I don't want you to feel as if this is whatever your results may be, that this is definitely your personality. It's not that. It's just to give you guys an idea in terms of where you might be. So it looks like we're about 62% of the way there in terms of people responding. Don't overthink these. I'll wait until we get to close to 80%, and then I'll stop the poll. But the main thing is that when you answer these questions, I want you to try to remember the number that goes along with it, because that's going to give you an idea in terms of where you fall on the continuum. So looks like people are deep in thought in this. Just I see the numbers kind of rolling up. So I'll give you guys another minute or so to finish it up, and then yeah, just trying to monitor the chat as well. It looks like some people have taken some different personality tests before. Somebody said the MMPI. The MMPI, I would say, and this 5-factor personality are probably the 2 most dominant personality tests in psychology. Somebody asked, is the 5-factor model, is it also called the Ocean? It is. It's also called the NEO. It goes by a few different terms. So I'm going to, okay, we're at about 80%. So I'm going to end the poll now just because of time, because there's lots of different things that I want to go through with all of you today. And if you didn't have a chance to answer all of them, that's fine, because the main point of this is to think about where you are in relation to all of your colleagues, right? So the first question is, you see yourself as sympathetic and warm, and you can see, as I'm sharing the results right now, you can see how heavily skewed that is towards 5, 6, and 7. So most people are agreeing a little to agreeing strongly. There's a few people on the other ends as well, which is fine. And then I generally see myself as calm and emotionally stable. You can see that there's a little bit more of a distribution here across compared to the first question, but also still skewed towards agree a little to agree strongly. And then the last one is I see myself as dependable and self-disciplined. Similar to the other ones, you can see how skewed it is, right? In terms of most people are agreeing a little to agree strongly. So if you're outside of that, that's fine. One of the key things about personality that I find really interesting is that generally, no matter where you land in personality, there's pros and cons to both, So what I mean by that is, like, let's take this first one, extroversion. I didn't ask you guys a question about extroversion, but what we generally find is that people who go into education are generally a little bit more extroverted compared to people in the general population. So this thick bar here is the average, and then this is the range. And when people are higher in extroversion, it means that if you think about yourself as a battery, it means that your battery is going to get recharged when you're around people. And also, one of the things I didn't know about extroversion until I did a little bit more research into it is that people who are higher in extroversion are usually a little bit faster to experience positive emotions like joy, happiness, excitement than people who are more on the introverted side. The other side is when people are a little bit more introverted, and this is when people's batteries get recharged a little bit more when they do things more by themselves. So again, there's no necessarily good or bad of each one. It's more important to know where you are and to know how you can maximize your life based on your personalities. I did ask you this question about whether or not you see yourself as sympathetic and warm. This really speaks to agreeableness, which really speaks to how nice you are and how altruistic you are and how much of a team player you are. Generally, people who are higher in agreeableness show a lot of those characteristics. People who are lower in agreeableness are usually more, they're less team players, they're more competitive, they can be more skeptical about a lot of things. They can be a little bit more crusty in terms of the relationships with people. And so what we generally find is that people who go into education are generally really nice people, because what we find is that people who go into education usually do it for a few reasons. One of them being that they want to make a difference in other people's lives. A lot of times they want to help other people because education is a helping profession. And a lot of times people want to, they enjoy working with children, or they enjoy, that process of learning. And so what it does is the education industry attracts people like yourselves who are generally higher in this. And there's pros and cons. The pro is that you're probably nicer. The con could be is that you could potentially, work so hard to help everybody else and not necessarily take care of yourself because you're so nice that you're trying to make sure that everybody else is okay. Openness is also a really key thing when it comes to the different factors. And openness really refers to how open you are to learning about new things, trying new things, going through new experiences in life. When people are less open, they're more conservative in the sense that they usually try to find a routine or something like, a little bit more traditional that's tried and true, and they like to stick with that a little bit more. And so what we generally find is that people who go into education are usually more open-minded about lots of different things. They have more of an open mindset. I also asked you another question about whether or not you feel like you are calm and emotionally stable. And a lot of people answered 5 to 6 or 7, which places you higher up here. Basically, emotional stability means that the higher you are in emotional stability, it means that the less likely you are to experience negative emotions like anger, frustration, guilt, shame, anxiety, worry, stress. As compared to when people are lower in emotional stability, you're more likely to experience those more frequently. And so what that means is that generally, the lower you are, the more things you need to do in order to kind of keep your mental health up as much as possible. And the last one that I want to leave you guys with is conscientiousness. This is one thing that we generally find amongst the education sector as compared to other sectors, other different professional groups, is that you guys are really, really conscientious people. You guys are generally really hardworking people. And there's pros and cons to that. The pro is that you guys are hardworking. And the con, though, is that sometimes you can work so hard, particularly if you're really nice as well. I alluded to this, is that you could be so nice and so hardworking that you're going to focus on everybody else and take care of everybody else, and then yourself and maybe even your family are at the back of the train, right? So it's something that you really want to think about. Somebody said they agree with me. Human service workers neglect self-care often, and this is one of the key reasons why. It's partly because of their personality, because again, right, there's pros and cons to it. And so I'm just launching the next poll as well. So it's one of the things that you want to think about. Somebody else mentioned compassion fatigue. Yes, compassion fatigue is something where people feel so much compassion and they're so altruistic that they work so hard to help other people, especially those in need. And you know, when you think about all the people that you guys deal with, all the young children, and their family members, you know, the squeaky wheel probably gets the grease, right? So the ones who are really struggling are the ones that you're paying more and more attention to, and you're trying to help out more and more. But with everything that's going on, I'm going to show you guys how your level of stress, how your level of energy really kind of interact to really influence your level of mental health and what we like to call your mental fitness. So I've asked a couple of poll questions just to see how everybody's doing in terms of your current level of stress. And one of the things that I like to think, one of the reasons why I like these Zoom polls is because it's anonymous, it's confidential, and it also gives you an idea in terms of where you are and also where all of your peers are as well. And so I'm just going to give you guys another minute just because, like I said, I've got a lot of things I want to get through. But I also want to make sure that people have enough time to kind of read the questions, digest it, and answer. So I'll give you guys another 30 seconds or so to finish this one up. I feel like, you know, stress is one of those concepts that often is really misunderstood. I feel like a lot of times when I ask a lot of really educated people what stress means, I get lots of different answers. Some people seeing it being, you know, really negative. There's nothing good that comes out of it. Some people see it's a bit of a blend. I really like to think of stress as being a sense, you know, kind of a feeling of strain or pressure. I like to think of it that way because I think that there's positive and negative things that come with stress. I think that I like to think about, you know, stress as being sort of like you need it in order to get stronger. You need it in order to become more resilient, but too much of it can sink us, right? So it's sort of like, you know, if you're working out, you need a certain amount of stress to, you know, increase the size of your muscle. If you load it up too much, you can potentially strain that muscle. It's the same thing when it comes to stress and its impact on our brains. So just I'm going to end the poll and share the results so all of you can have a quick view. So you can see that, you know, there's probably about 10% of your colleagues that are experiencing a high and unmanageable level of stress. But there's also about 50% of people are experiencing a high level of stress, but they feel like it's manageable, right? So as long as your level of stress isn't moving up towards the kind of 8, 9, 10, the 6s and 7s, it seems like it's manageable. And then you can see that from further down is moderate and manageable. Notice that nobody, is really at 1. Everybody's stressed to a certain degree. And then if you think about yourself as a battery, there's a bit of a spread here from the bulk is between 75 and 50%, which isn't bad. 50%, especially if you're starting to go downwards, that's more of an issue. And then definitely 25%, 0%, it can be potentially more of an issue in terms of your level of energy. Let me explain why. So this is a really important concept that we really try to help people understand. This is what we call the mental health continuum. It's just like the physical health continuum, right? Where up here is the healthy end, and then down here, borderline is like borderline diabetes. So it means that you've got some symptoms, but not enough in order to fall into the unhealthy range. And with enough diet and exercise, if you have borderline diabetes, you can move yourself up to the healthy range. And if you don't do anything, you're probably going to go down into the unhealthy range. What we generally find in terms of people with education is that, life is manageable, but it's challenging, and it changes year to year, right? Because every year is a little bit different. There's new challenges, and sometimes there's emergency situations that come up. In the short time that we've been working with NHSA, there've been some pretty significant issues, like the baby formula crisis, school shootings, things like that. Those are the types of things that pop up. But over and above those things as well, year to year, you might have a new director, a new group of colleagues, you might switch positions. There might be new issues, a new group of children that you're working with. There could be a lot of different things that happen. And what we generally find with a lot of people who start to experience mental health issues is that you start to experience different types of stressors. So usually one of the major ones comes from work, but there could also be one from your personal life. Like it could be like a death in the family or a transition period, like maybe a divorce or a marriage or having a baby or something like that. And then what ends up happening is that these combinations of personal and professional stressors usually start to, cook together, right? It's like they're kind of simmering. And then over time, what ends up happening is that it keeps building up. And over time, people generally feel like, they have to keep pushing themselves. And this is the danger for all you conscientious people, is that you feel like, okay, I just have to keep pushing harder. I have to keep pushing harder and harder. But then what ends up happening is that you start to feel depleted, like you can't get your hands around it like you usually can, because usually your go-to is just to work harder, right? And then what ends up happening is that you start to question, well, why can't I do this? All the times that I've had challenges in my life, I work harder and I get over it. But this time is different, and everybody else seems to be doing okay, but not me. And we like to call this the perfect storm when people hit this point. It's one of the terms that we really like to use. And a lot of the other organizations that we've worked with, what we generally find is that this type of language, like the mental health continuum, the perfect storm, these are great ways to normalize mental health. It's ways that people can talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, I've gone through a perfect storm before, right? And generally people don't experience a perfect storm in a day, usually, right? Unless it's like a really traumatic event. It usually doesn't happen over weeks, days or weeks. It usually happens over months or years, right? And generally what we find is that it's usually about 7 years where we see a lot of educators experience a lot of stress for a long period of time, and then they hit this perfect storm or they hit disability at that point. Now, just to try to normalize what some of your colleagues are saying. So like I said, we launched a few weeks ago at the end of June, and this is what some of your colleagues are saying. And the reason why, I thought I'd highlight this is just because, sorry, I forgot to change this, is that I just wanted to normalize it. My stress level has been extremely high lately due to challenges both at work and at home. This is what some of your directors are saying. This was another director comment. My anxiety has been overwhelming. It's coming in waves. I feel like I'm barely above the surface. I'm focused on worrying about things that are the same part of my brain or secure, and I know they're secure, but my anxiety doesn't seem to know it. That's a really common thing that people start to experience, but people don't understand why. And our program is really geared to try to help people understand, yes, even though you might know that, the worry is happening for a reason. And this is some of the positive feedback that we've been getting as well from some of your NHSA members. And the reason why is because what we try to do is we try to provide all of you with a framework. That's why I asked the battery question. It's really important to know how much energy you have, because you need to know how, like what we usually find is that how much energy you have usually starts to mirror where you are on the mental health continuum. So if your battery level's high, you're probably going to be as mentally healthy as you're going to be for yourself. And these are the skills that we think are absolutely critical when it comes to mental fitness. And it really, what it boils down to, the highest level mental fitness skills are self-confidence, assertiveness, and decisiveness. Now, you're all born with a certain amount of this, and but because there's skills, just like riding a bike or learning any subject in school, everybody can improve these things, right? But what ends up happening when you go down with all those different stressors, when you go down that mental health continuum, what ends up happening is that the level of energy in your battery can get drained. And this is usually what we call like a leading indicator. So what ends up happening is that your battery gets drained, and being very conscientious people, you're going to push yourself to keep your work functioning up as much as possible, to take care of as many people as possible. But then what's going to end up happening is that because you're running at such a low level of energy for a long period of time, what's going to probably happen is that your self-care, in terms of like your hobbies, your interests, things that you do to take care of yourself, are going to start to go by the wayside. You're probably going to start to notice some changes in your relationships. You might be more irritable, especially with your family members and friends. You might not see your friends as often. And then what ends up happening is that you go down and you potentially hit that perfect storm, and you fall down this mental health continuum where you start to experience a lot of soft symptoms of anxiety and depression. And I've just listed some of them here, right? And this is what our program really focuses on. It really focuses on stress, anxiety, and depression, because these are the most common things that most people will experience in their lives, right? When it comes to mental health issues. And so when you start to experience these areas here start to get eroded. And then this is where the Starling program really comes in, because we really try to focus on these skill sets here to really help people learn what can you do to better improve all of these different areas here. How can you measure it? How can you monitor it? So that when you start to get better at these skill sets here, what you should notice is that if you're able to make changes in your life, changes in the way that you approach things, you can potentially recharge your battery, move up the mental health continuum. And as these areas get stronger here, these areas will also get stronger as well. So that's overall how we, this is like our overall framework for how we try to get people as mentally fit as possible. So let me launch the next poll. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so this one, this poll here is really designed to, again, normalize, mental health, right? How many perfect storms have you experienced in your life, right? So just think back over the course of your life, and then you can answer the question. And then the next question is, which of the following best describes your level of physical fitness throughout your life? And there's a variety of different answers there. I would say that for myself, when it comes to physical fitness, there's been aspects of my physical fitness when I have been physically fit. So I'm 45 right now. When I was in my late teens, early 20s, that's probably when I was working out the most. And I would say that that's when I was probably the most fit in my life. But I was probably a lot more fit in terms of like I guess my strength training than I was in terms of my flexibility and my cardio. My cardio has just never been that great over the course of my life, because I hate jogging, I hate running, swimming, biking, all those types of things. If there's a ball bouncing around, I'll chase after it. But I generally have never been that strong cardio-wise. Now, this has changed over the course of my life because, in my 30s, starting up my private practices, working a lot more, then having a couple of kids, then starting Starling, all these things started to stack up. And then the time that I had started to kind of change, right? And so I would say that I'm much less physically fit now than I ever have been in my life. And so I just wanted to normalize that with all of you. I'll give you guys another couple seconds to answer these questions, but I just wanted to show you that our level of physical fitness generally fluctuates. It generally moves up and down for the vast majority of us. And there's going to be some of you who have been fit a lot more, and I'll show you the results now, just because we hit 70%. So don't worry if you didn't answer all the questions. The point of this is just to think about where are you, and then think about where you fit and as compared to all your colleagues. So this first question, how many perfect storms have you experienced in your life? Notice that 16% of you aren't sure, and that is totally fine, right? But part of being able to manage your mental health is knowing whether or not you've experienced a perfect storm, or even what a perfect storm even means for you. And that's what the Starling program will help you better understand, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. Now, notice that only I'm actually kind of blown away from this. Only 4% of you, and I think that we've got almost 300 people who answered this, only 4% of you have said, you've never experienced a perfect storm. Whereas 50% of you have experienced 1 to 5, and 16% is 6 to 10, and then 11% of you is more than 10, right? So this should really help normalize, like, perfect storms are something that happens in our life. It's one of those things that we can't, like, life is hard, and hopefully life is long for all of us, right? But if we accept that the life is hard, there are things that happen, a lot of things that are sometimes outside of our control. Things are going to happen to us, right? Over the course of our lives. Hopefully, the longer we live, the more opportunity there is to experience these hard things. And when it does, it's part of life. But how we learn to respond to it, and how we learn to kind of keep ourselves as mentally healthy, mentally fit as possible, is absolutely critical. Now, it's the same thing when it comes to our health, right? Because our physical health is one where it gets so much attention. And if you notice that only 7% of you have said that you've always been as physically fit as you'd wanted to be. And I give those 7%, you guys get a lot of kudos, because, that means that you like, not surprising, right? You guys saw the conscientious results. You guys are super conscientious. And so that's 7% of all you guys are saying, okay, well, I'm able to keep that up. But for the vast majority of us, our level of physical fitness fluctuates, right? I would say that I would fit into that the next one. There have been some times when I've been more physically fit, but I think generally in my life, I've always struggled to be more physically fit than I am. So I'd fall into one of those two. And you can see that that's almost 90%, but it's over 90% of all of you out there, right? And then for some of you, physical fitness has never been a priority. So this is totally fair, but this where I'm going with this is that generally, if you think about this health continuum, so it's not just the mental health continuum, it's a health continuum, because you can also think of it being a physical health continuum. Really, what this means is that when it comes to physical health, generally people know what they're supposed to do. I know that I have a pretty sedentary job. I know that I should be a lot more active. I know I should increase my cardio. I know I should stretch more, particularly as I get older. So I know a lot of these things. So at least I know what I'm supposed to do. When it comes to mental health, the biggest challenge that I think that a lot of people have is that they don't really know what they're supposed to do in order to become more mentally fit. Right? And these are the different skill sets that I think are really important that people really need to learn. And that's where, we really are here to help all of you better understand it and better improve it. So that's where we want to walk with all of you in terms of how can we help all of you better improve your both your physical health, or sorry, your mental health, and hopefully it will also improve your physical health as we move forward. All right, so this next set of questions is really focused on, think about the areas of your life that your hobbies, your areas of passion, things that you've had you've been exposed to over the course of your life, and it's one of those things where you're like, yes, that's the area that I really love. I see the results pouring in now, and oh, okay, it's changing a little bit as people are answering it, because at first nobody put in psychology of yourself. That would be my area of passion. I was always really interested in psychology. I love all things about psychology. Psychology is a very wide umbrella. There's lots of different areas within it, clinical being one of them. I think that generally when people think of psychology, they usually think about treatment, and they usually think about mental health and mental illness, and that's just one aspect of psychology. There's lots of others, as many of you know, like there's a whole developmental area of psychology, which is really super interesting, but also overlaps into mental health as people get older. But the point of these questions is that I find that sometimes I feel like our education system focuses so much on certain subjects and skills related to those subjects that we lose sometimes perspective of, I think generally a lot of people are really intelligent, but it's just like their intelligence is in different areas of life. And so one of the things that I find interesting is that I find so many of these areas of intelligence are basically skill sets. And when people, learn these different skills, they get better and better at them over time. So what do I mean by that? I'm going to end the poll now just because of time, because I've got to kind of keep things moving. And really what I want to show you is that notice how many people are really interested in relationships. Again, not surprising because so many of you are in education and so much of education is about relationships. But, there's a widespread, right? Nature, music, visual arts, sports, verbal, logical, all over the place, right? But then if you look at how long have you spent improving those skills in that area, notice how there's a bump, there's a bit of a spike in 1 to 5 years, but there's also another spike at 16 plus years. That's actually the highest one. So for the vast majority of you out there, you picked an area that you were passionate about, or the closest area that you're passionate about, and you've been doing it generally, let's see, 45, 55, over 60% of you are saying that you have spent 6 or more years doing that passion, with a heavy emphasis towards the 16 years, as compared to how long have you spent improving your mental fitness. Notice how it's skewed the opposite direction. Notice how, the highest is 1 to 5 years, followed by less than 1 year, right? The point of this being is that if we think about mental health, and if we think about your mental fitness as a set of skills. I love this idea of the hierarchy of competence on the left-hand side here. What this means is that whenever you want to learn any skill, it will follow this hierarchy of competence, right? So it doesn't matter what subject it is or what skill it is, right? So even riding a bike could fall into this. If I don't recognize the importance of riding a bike at all, then I'm falling into this unconscious incompetence stage. That's where I am. I don't know how to ride a bike. I don't think it's very useful. But then if I start to think, oh, you know what, especially with gas prices going up, I could see the value of riding a bike. And so you start to see the value, but you don't really know how to do it. That's when you enter the conscious incompetence stage. And then once you get a bike and you do some research and you start to figure it out, and once you start getting on it, you're starting to move from the conscious incompetence stage to the conscious competence, but you can't quite necessarily balance, you can't necessarily go. And then as you get better and better at those skills, as you get more training and as you get more experience, your conscious competence is going to rise. And as you get even more and more experience, especially, if you think about the 16 plus years that a lot of you have put into it, you're going to be at a really high level in terms of conscious competence and potentially even unconscious competence. If any of you have read Malcolm Gladwell's book on outliers, and he talks about 10,000 hours to be an expert at something, it's kind of that idea in the sense that, if you put in 10,000 hours, you get a lot of experience and you move up this hierarchy of competence. So what this also applies to are each one of these different skill sets here. And that's what we're really excited about to work with all of you on, in terms of, can we help all of you improve all of these different skill sets here so that you move up this hierarchy of competence, right? And we're going to do this based on the concepts of cognitive behavior therapy. And this model, really what it shows is that in any situation, it can be broken down, like you can be broken down in terms of what are you doing right now, your behaviors. So right now, all of you are sitting at your computers, you're paying 100% attention to this presentation, right? And as you're paying 100% attention, your moods are super excited, super interested. And then as a result, your physiology, you're sitting up, right? You're feeling really alert, right? Your body's kind of activated. And your thoughts are, this is an amazing presentation. This is an amazing service by the NHSA. I'm so excited, right? Now, the idea behind this is that as you're going about your life, there's going to be different things that trigger us. And triggers can be positive or it can be negative. It can, something can trigger joy in you, or it could trigger sadness, right? But depending on where you are in the mental health continuum, and depending on how much energy you have, we are creatures of habits, right? We have a lot of patterns. And when our energy gets drained, and when we move down the mental health continuum, what ends up happening is that we have a certain set of reactions, and these reactions could be patterns. What we often see with a lot of educators is that when they're struggling, they work all day, they go home, and then a lot of people say they collapse, right? They don't have any time for themselves or their family members, they just collapse. And so what ends up happening is that's a bit of a pattern, right? That's a pattern that's happening, when they get home, which is potentially being the trigger. Now, what we try to do to help people is we try to help them become more aware of what their triggers are and what their reactions are, because usually people's level of awareness is here. They're not quite aware of when they are triggered, and they have this narrow window for when they can react before they hit this point of no return. So really what we want to do is we want to help people lower this bar of awareness so that they're more aware of their triggers and their reactions. And we want people to learn different strategies so that they can better manage their moods like this. And this is really at the heart of what CBT is about. And so with our Starling Mental Fitness program, the question is, okay, well, how can this digital program potentially help all of you? So I'm just switching over to our website. If you go to our website, and if you click the login button, it will take you to a registration page. Like if you hit login here, and then once you log in, it will look something like this. And Deb's going to walk you through how to register in just a little bit. But when you land in the program, it will give you instructions in terms of what the recommendations are for today. And these recommendations will change depending on what's going on. Notice that it's recommending that I do a checkup, and because really the checkup is going to give me an idea in terms of how I'm doing, where am I on the mental health continuum, and how am I progressing over time. We also have a set of exercises and what we call mental fitness training. So I'm going to walk through all these different areas with you. A big part of our program is what we call training. And what this training is a set of different modules that will help you kind of go through it so that you can see so that you can learn all of the different skill sets. So these first two really speak to education and self-awareness. It will improve your skill sets there. It will introduce a strategy called mood tracking. There's a lot of different behavior strategies that we introduce in this module here. And then we introduce different thought strategies in this module here. We've also got another module on managing COVID and anxiety. And then we also have different modules down here that are a hybrid. So it's a hybrid in the sense that it's very similar to the way that I'm running this session with all of you today. It's what we call the Mental Fitness Challenge. And if I go into it, really what it looks like is it's a combination of live sessions with myself or one of my colleagues at Starling, where we help people week over week improve these skills. And you can sign up for one. There's one coming up in August, and there's another one coming up in the fall. And people can make comments. They can say how they're doing at any given time, but they can follow along in this program here, because if they miss the session, they can also watch one of the recordings. Now, on top of that, we've got a video library. People can go into any one of these different libraries, and they can watch really short videos on different concepts. And then there's also different, like these are different breathing techniques. A lot of the other ones are more psychoeducational. They're packed with a lot of information to really help normalize. You can see this one's on the perfect storm, to really help normalize a lot of different things. We also have a tools section so that people can go into all of the different digital tools that are incorporated in the modules. So the modules will teach you how to use these. It will also help you understand what your progress is, so you can see how you're doing at any given time. And it will also track it in a graph as well, so you can see how your level of stress is fluctuating. All of these statements are all personalized based on how you're doing. That our program is set up in a way where it will take your information, it will remember it, and it will feed it back to you. And there's also a community section as well, because a lot of times people want to express what's going on with themselves with other people. And so there's ways that people can interact in our program completely anonymously, and you get a code name so that people don't know who you are. So that's a program. And how we can improve NHSA's mental fitness is really by these three areas. You can access the Starling Mental Fitness Program, like I just showed you, completely on your own. You can do it anonymously, confidentially. You can just dip in and see what it's about. We also run right now they're bi-weekly drop-in sessions. So we have different topics every couple of weeks, and we talk about different mental health topics. We talk about members' comments and how what it means. So that you can attend these drop-in sessions. It's like a drop-in exercise class. And then we also have these 4-week sessions or 6-week sessions that are workshops and mental fitness challenges. These are a little bit more guided with a person in these large groups. So it's very similar to the format that we have today. So if you like today's format, you might want to think about these ones as well as the digital program as well. Overall, we've been doing this, for several years, and what we generally know is that when people go into the program, when they use it, their depression and anxiety scores improve. People feel a lot more resilient. They feel like they're able to better manage stress. They have a better idea of what stress is and how they can kind of take care of it themselves. And these are some of the results that we did with the NHSA pilot. So we asked people at the end of the pilot how much energy they had in their battery, similar to what I asked you, and their battery ratings increased from 58% at the beginning to 72%. And this pilot was run over the course of 3 weeks. And the participant ratings were generally really high. People were planning on coming to the next sessions. As part of the pilot, people recommended that they thought that the mental fitness program would be really beneficial to their NHSA colleagues. And you can see that 77% of them gave us really high ratings. And it really helped people better understand their mental health, gave them strategies. You can see that 100% of people found it to be helpful and gave us high ratings. They also found that our approach could potentially increase the awareness and really help change the culture around mental health at NHSA. So we had really positive results with this. We had a lot of really positive feedback as well. People really enjoyed the live training as well as the tools in the program. And even for those of you who are doing really well, I really like this quote, because it says, thinking about the battery and how even people with positive mental health can improve. We can all improve our mental fitness just like we can all improve our physical fitness. I also like this one as well, because it said, the information the person is aware of, but it was a good refresher. It was easy to understand. That's what we really try to do. We try to make everything as easy to understand as possible. Taking care of our own mental health is important as you provide help to the children and families you serve, which is really important, right? The stronger you are, the more effective you're going to be for the children and families that you serve and your own families. So this is ultimately what we're trying to do. We're really trying to help foster a change in culture, and really who that involves is all of you. It involves leaders, managers, staff, educators, families, your own families. As Deb's going to mention, all of you are going to have access to the Starling program as with your NHSA membership, and your family members are going to have access to it as well, because we know that mental health illness and mental health issues don't occur in isolation. It affects all, it affects your colleagues, it affects your family members. Personally, I've experienced it where I've had a family member experience some pretty significant mental health issues, and it affects everybody in the family, right? So the goal is that if you yourself aren't struggling, if you have family members who may be, you can also give them access to our program as well, and they can participate in our training. So really, this is what we're trying to do in order to increase and change the culture around mental health. We really want all of you to know the basics so that you can apply it to yourselves, lead by example. For all the people around you, your family members as well, if you can lead by example, if you can participate in conversations, in our webinars, in even the chat. I see lots of comments in the chat. If you can just participate, that's also changing the culture. And then feedback. We love constructive feedback. If there's anything that you feel like we could do to improve, we definitely want to know. So thanks for that. I'll hand it over to Deb for the next few slides.
Thanks, everyone. I know we're short on time and that some of you in the chat have said you need to jump. If you do, please just know the link to visit is nhsa.org/Starling, and you can follow through the steps there. For those of you who can stay on with us, please do, and enter your questions in the Q&A section. Just loving the questions there and in the chat. Yes, it is available in Spanish. Yes, it's available on a smartphone. More on that in a second, but you just bookmark it. You just open it through your browser. Someone had a great comment about how Starling aligns with what you teach your kiddos. Love to hear that, and that you'd love to see this presentation available to all of your colleagues. By all means, we'll be doing this again in the fall, so please encourage them to attend if they didn't. And we will share out a recording of the session as well. You can share with them. And yes, it is free. There's no cost to you. This is provided to you by the NHSA organization, one of the perks of being an NHSA member. Also remember, this is available to your family members. So they'll be able to access it there as well, a special code for them. So for the next steps is to visit that website that I just mentioned. And just go back one slide, sorry. And it'll walk you through the steps. If you're a member, it will verify that you're a member. If not, it will send you through to the trial access, so you can still access it. Remember, that's for 1 month that you can access that. If you become an NHSA member during that time, just email us at members@starlingminds.com. Let us know what program you're with, and we can switch you over to the full program. Once you're registered, we encourage you to complete a checkup and a first session to get you started, and then go back and complete checkups every couple of weeks so you can see your progress, and the program can give you the personalized recommendations. And to bookmark it, we strongly recommend you bookmark it, create a shortcut on your smartphone or desktop, and then it works just like an app would. It resizes for the screen. You open it just like an app. Just don't use a private browser for that. You just open it up through your browser. There's detailed instructions on the Starling Mental Fitness homepage. And you can do as little as much as you like in a day. It's really designed that you can do a few minutes at a time. We have short exercises. You can go in and watch a video, balance a thought, or you can sit and dive in for as long as you like. Next slide. We have well-attended webinars, as Andrew said, and drop-in sessions. They're one of the favorite parts of the program. These are in addition to, and you register for those separately. And it's really to enhance your experience and knowledge, like attending a gym class for your mind. So we encourage you to register for those. Even if you can't attend, you'll get reminders, and you can access recordings of those at a later date. And again, you register separately. We currently offer Mental Fitness Mondays with Dr. Mickey and Wellness Wednesdays with our mental fitness coach Tara Ashkar, who's monitoring our Q&A questions for us today. Thank you, Tara, and Janet as well. And these webinars, it's private attendance, so don't worry about attending and others seeing you. And next, I'm going to let you know what we have coming up for our next workshop. It's pretty exciting. In August, we're doing a sleep workshop. These take place on Tuesday, starting August 2nd through to the 23rd. We'll post the registration link for that as well in the chat. And you can reach it as well in your Starling homepage through the training tab. When in doubt, you can always go there to get registration links for our other sessions. Keep in mind, they have separate additional registrations. And this workshop will focus on reversing poor sleep habits, teach you how to strengthen your natural sleep session, much, much more. Really exciting. And then coming up after that, after August, we have in October, we're doing a webinar series on stress and burnout. And in February, we're doing a workshop on mindfulness. And in the spring, we'll have a series on general anxiety. So these receive wonderful feedback, great comments, lots of members saying how much they help them. So please check them out. And before we close out again, you can connect with us on the Q&A and members at starlingminds.com. Andrew has one more poll question for you.
Yeah, I know that a lot of you have to go, so if you have to, that's fine. But if not, it'd be great to get a little bit of feedback at the end of this, just in terms of how you feel at the end of this this presentation. So thank you all of you for attending. We're really happy to open it up to any kind of questions that people might have as well, because I've had difficulties monitoring everything at the same time.
Andrew, there's a couple of questions in the Q&A box, if you'd like to open the Q&A box.
Okay.
In the meantime, while Andrew's looking at those, I see a lot asking for the access code. Go through the nhsa.org link, and when you verify your membership, it'll give you the access code.
Okay, so somebody said, are there a few PowerPoint slides to present to staff during pre-service? Yes, I mean, I think the best way to do that is to email us at members@starlingminds.ca, and we're happy to send out, parts of this deck to people to kind of help you with that, with those presentations. Somebody asked, what theory or theorist or theory is this system based on? The theory that it's based on is cognitive behavior therapy. That's the dominant theory that we use in the program. There's other modalities as well that we infuse into it just to help really try to focus on, I guess, the rapport that we have with people and really trying to use very empathetic language for people. And so I would say that cognitive behavior therapy is the main one. And then somebody else asked, how confidential is the website? Yeah, so the program is 100% confidential for all of NHSA members. We do reporting to NHSA just to kind of give them an idea in terms of how the program's working, but it's always on an aggregate level. So it's always just pools of people. There's never any identifiable information or anything like that. We do have communities in the program where people can write what's going on in their lives and share their thoughts, share their experiences, support one another. We get a lot of people supporting each other, which we love. But we also monitor that. We've got an algorithm in the program that monitors the language. We also have humans that a big part of our staff in the customer success department and community support department really, they look at every individual comment that comes through just to make sure that everybody's safe. If there is ever a time when it looks like somebody is at risk for self-harm, we still maintain confidentiality, but we will reach out to individual members with additional support, just in case if anybody's really struggling. So I think that's, oh,
Also, just questions on how you'll know about upcoming workshops and things like that. If you are registered for the Starling Minds Mental Fitness Program, we do share out communications on what's coming up, so you can watch for those. And also through NHSA, they will share out communications about what's coming up for those who have not yet registered for the program. And for those of you asking about staff resources, absolutely, we've created a lot and of resources that you can use with your staff and able to access that through the website as well. Janet?
Hi, Deb. Are you able to kind of walk through how someone can gain access again?
Yeah, so if you visit the nhsa.org/Starling, that will that's the place to start. Great, thank you. If you just go to the NHSA website, so if you've forgotten after we jump offline today, you can find it through the resource library, and you can just search up Starling Minds or mental health. Otherwise, you can go directly to nhsa.org/Starling, and that will just kind of walk you through the steps. I believe we have a PDF that's going to be linked that walks you through this step by step. As well, if it's posted through the chat, that will be shared out if not. And it will go through the steps of verifying that you are an NHSA member and provide you the code, get started right away. If you are not yet an NHSA member, then it will move you forward to the trial access of the program. So visit that site, use the QR code that we have posted up here as well with your smartphone, just open up your camera and that will get you right to the website. I know
somebody's asking, sorry,
yeah.
Somebody's asking for the email address for the slides again. It's members@starlingminds.com.
Yeah, we love to hear from you. Connect with us. So any questions, anything like that, you can reach us there. Any trouble logging in, same thing. Always just remember you're using an updated version of a browser, and that's usually, if we have any tech support, that's one of the issues. That's really the only issue. We don't see a lot of issues, but just make sure you're using an updated version of your browser and reach out to us anytime. Any other questions, Janet or Tara, that we should connect on? Again, it's free. It's going to be offered to your family members, no cost to you. And we can't wait to see you in some of our live sessions and workshops. Really great resource. Thank you to those participating in the chat. Really great stuff. People already signing in. Great to see. Love that. We'll see you in there. And in the program, I think Andrew touched on it. There is a community in the program as well, so you can share out and support other members. You can like and comment. It's always a positive and supportive place. So given the members we're seeing here in the chat, I'm looking forward to see you in that community as well. If your program's not listed, let us know. You could, again, members@starlingminds.com, and there is an I'm not sure option as well. Thank you, guys. Yes, oh, in Spanish, it's available in Spanish as well. I believe that was one of the questions in the chat. Keisha, thanks for joining us today and for all your help in getting this out to the membership.
Oh, thank you so much. This is great. I really enjoyed the engagement in the chat, all the questions, the wonderful presentation from Dr. Mickey, and of course, the wonderful team at Starling. Thank you to our Head Start community for joining us today. If there are questions about access to the program, I did also drop questions around membership. I saw a few questions in the chat. I did put the membership email, membership@nhsa.org. If you do not see your program, please feel free to send an email as well about that. I've seen one person say they didn't see their program when they dropped down.
Yeah, it's searchable. That field is searchable for those looking for your program. Just start typing in your name, but it will, and it should come up. And if your program is named kind of different you know, maybe it has, you use it by initials or something like that, try typing out the full name of the program.
And for those of you who are left, if you're interested, I can share the results of the last poll. So thank you everybody for answering.
Very helpful. There we go. Good job. Wonderful to see. And the instructions again on registering have been posted again in the chat, linked there. Those are detailed instructions. Okay. Perfect. We'll wrap it up. Any last questions? Members at starlingminds.com. Oh, actually, someone just asked a great question. Andrew, I'm going to throw it to you. Andrew, Deb, Keisha, what's your favorite thing about this app? Andrew, what's your favorite thing?
Oh, gee. Okay, so okay, here's my answer. I'm going to say there's two things. I love the community aspect of our app because, you know, we have a lot of like-minded people who join us and who are supportive. We've been doing the community aspect since 2018, and when we did it, we were a little nervous just because we weren't really sure. I've seen a lot of forums, and you know, there's a lot of toxicity that happens you know, in those forums sometimes. And I have to say that ours is, we've been very, very fortunate. We've never, like, you know, we've got some rules just around people supporting each other, and people, like, you know, like in all the years that we've done it, we've never had to kick anybody off. We've had to warn a couple of people, you know, but just maybe 2 or 3 over thousands of people that have been on it. So I love the community aspect, and it also dovetails into, I love the community aspect, and I love how people enter their comments, and we kind of watch people as they go through in terms of how they change. The comments at the beginning when they first start the program is usually, you know, how they're struggling and how difficult a time they're having. And then as they go through the program and as they talk, you know, as they enter more comments in the community, you see people kind of evolve and grow and change and make changes. And then they talk about how their lives are changing and how much better they feel. And that's, you know, to me as a clinician, like, I love that. I mean, that's why I got into psychology, right? Is to get people better and out the door. So, you know, that's the part that I love seeing. So
Yeah,
that's my long answer.
shared that she loves the the check-ins and the live sessions part of the program. For me, it kind of piggybacks you, Andrew. It's that community, and I love it when I see another member supporting another member, so that you can comment on someone else's comments, and you kind of just give them a little boost and a little support. And if you can imagine how the person on the other end, they'll get a notification that someone commented on their comment, and just give them a little boost. I love that. And the other thing I love is the videos, because I find everyone kind of learns things differently. So some learn through kind of reading and digesting information. I'm a visual learner, so the videos and the descriptions with the videos are a great way to absorb the concept. So, and Keisha, the community as well, yes. So great question, Jesse. Thank you for that one. Okay, everyone. And again, this recording will be sent out. And we'll follow up with any questions. Hopefully everything got answered, but again, it's members at starlingminds.com, and we really look forward to seeing you in the program and lots of upcoming webinars. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks everyone. Thanks for coming.